Before the crime, before even being a felon, so broke. My dad, I think stepdad makes $350 a week now, and my mom's handicapped. So there's always been this like part of me that doesn't feel completely like a normal human being. My name's Kenny Grand. I organize here in Little Rock with Vox Populi Cooperatives. It's a worker cooperative that we're trying to build. We're doing a little street side cafe cart. And hopefully we're going to be setting up a ton of worker and producer owned industries around town. Went to school at UCA, went to college for about 5 years. Started out as a chemistry and biology double major until I realized I was too poor to handle that class load and support myself. So I did writing, political science, and Spanish. I'd say it was 2003. I was coming home from Little Rock and was sleeping in the passenger side of a car, and there was some marijuana in the console, and my driver decided it would be a cute idea to pass out on the driver's side and in the middle of the street. So I woke up to squad cars, and they found some weed, and I claimed it as mine, which was mine. And that was sort of like the start of a chain of events that eventually led to my felony. The woman who booked me was actually somebody who went to my church, and she was like, "Don't worry about telling your parents, it's just the weed thing." But with weed, like, you get charged with that, even a small misdemeanor amount, and you can't get student loans anymore. You don't have immediate access to financial aid. So it definitely made things really difficult. And they also suspended my license. And at the time I was working part-time going to school, so it kind of put a big damper on the rest of my life. Actually, that's what led to my eventual felony. I was on a labor campaign. I was doing work for the Employee Free Choice Act. I pulled a volunteer shift, and we had gone up to Benton County and just slept on the side of a road. And I didn't have a valid driver's license, and I'd driven up there, and my companions had gotten pretty saucy the night before. So I was like, well, they're not going to let them go, so I guess I'm just going to have to give a false name. So I told them my name was David, and thought it would be fine, and they ended up all three getting picked up. And then I found out that in Benton County they're pretty dang harsh on people who provide false names to the police. I was so mortified because some people I was in the holding cell with were like, they will nail you with felony forgery in this county. But so they brought me in, and I went into arraignment up there in Benton County, and they were like, felony theft of property. Instead of being quiet, because I had no idea, what was happening, I just told them what happened. I was like, I was on a labor campaign, had a suspended license that I hadn't been able to reinstate yet. I provided a false name. They picked me up, and that's that. And the judge just said felony forgery.
After arraignment, there's a judge and a court reporter, maybe a prosecutor.
Yeah.
Was there anybody there to help you out?
No. I mean, the other people that were in there with me. And there was no public defender. They said would be provided at the plea hearing.
So for your felony charge, how many times did you see a lawyer?
Saw him once when he said plead guilty. Saw him the second time from the back. I didn't even talk to him at the trial. The lawyer, the public defender, is nothing more than a signatory. They go in, they stamp it, they're like, plead guilty. And I think earlier in this interview I was gonna bring it up, but I forgot to. But like, there's this weird conflict in that, like, the lawyer had told me, they really don't like what you did. You're gonna either plead guilty or you're gonna do a year in jail. Like, there's no going. If you take this trial, you're gonna spend at least a year in jail. So go ahead and plead guilty, and you won't have to spend any time in there, and we'll give you a lighter sentence. There wasn't one that said, hey, from across the courtroom. You know, at the end you have to agree and say, you know, you weren't coerced. But the public defender had said, you know, either plead guilty or go to prison. For a sin, your name was Dave. They ran me through and pretty much like told me every way in which I'm from here on out till I get an expungement will be a second-class citizen or whatever, not a complete American citizen. Like, what place do we have? Like, what place do felons have? Like, there's a huge subsection of the state of people who have no access to the democratic process whatsoever and have no access to gainful employment. So that's really, I got really angry. Yeah, just every day, I don't know, and just the everyday thought that you're something other, you know, that you're a criminal. Whenever this all happened, whenever people would find out, like, I got treated differently, you know, the civic organizations that I used to be a leader to, like, all of a sudden, like, I'm being, like, kind of shirked and shrugged off, you know. And I usually try not to talk about it in public too much, just because it's, like, I immediately have to, like, kind of justify myself. And I don't feel like I should have to justify myself. There's people that do much worse stuff than what I've done, and gotten away with it, you know. A lot of people don't give a damn about going back to jail because there's nothing outside of those walls for them, you know.
Wow.
My dad was actually a repeated, like, he died in the 90s, mid-90s and stuff, with drug overdose, but he couldn't handle being out in the free world after a certain amount of time. Just because he didn't see any hope, any way of getting out, he didn't, you know. My brother's actually, he's worse off than I am. He owes a couple $100,000 in restitutions because he was like, my way to get out of this situation is to knock over a bunch of cell phone shops. It's hard to let yourself be vulnerable when you're raised by people who can't show vulnerability or don't show vulnerability, or, you know, aren't there and whatnot a lot of the times because they're too busy being locked up. There are no true paths to citizenship. There are no true paths to recuperation. There's no true paths to rehabilitation. If this town's got 6,000 felons who are competing for a damn minimum wage job at McDonald's, they can keep that wage low. Because if you got everybody scrabbling for the lowest common denominator, then it makes it a lot easier to exploit people. Pretty much we elect leaders, we go check a box once a year and we try to call that democracy, but nobody's really in control of their destinies within their communities. So I just started organizing specifically around that. We decided to do a streetcar because it's cheap. It's $5,000. It's, you know, $100,000 to start a cafe. We're all poor, but hopefully we can use this cart to get out there and get the word out and start putting out good product, and eventually be able to get up to a point to where we've got a decent brew and brew. One of the things I want to do with the cart, with the cafe and stuff, is hire felons, hire people coming out of prison, and give them the opportunity to have self-determination, you know. You gotta kind of abolish subsistence anxiety, because that's what, you know, it's what causes people to lose their humanity. Nobody's gonna screw themselves over on purpose unless they're really screwed up, you know. If you're like, I'll give you a decent job, you get a 401k, like, retirement plan, healthcare. All you gotta do is, like, you know, come drive these trucks and do highway work or whatever. You're not gonna see them even thinking about wanting to commit crimes.